This is the Multi-Orgasmic Millionaire Podcast, the only sex podcast for 7- and 8-figure conscious leaders who want to embody their pleasure and to have the best sex of their lives. I'm Tilly Storm, top 20 sex coach in the world, and your host today. Welcome back, everyone. It's Tilly Storm, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some teachings that come directly from me. I don't even have any teachers of my own to attribute anything that I'm sharing with you today. None of this came from anyone I have known or have worked with, no mentors or anything. This is all me, okay? I want to share with you 5 ways that I have found and connected to God through my body. And the reason that I want to share this with you is because many of us are living completely disconnected from our body. If you are listening to my podcast, you're here because you probably want a better sex life. You want to feel more connected to your sexuality. You want to awaken your sexuality inside of you. And you don't get to do that until you can begin to connect with your body and the felt sense and begin to have and build a deep level of sensate focus to get out of your head and be in your body and to be embodied and to connect with sexuality and to have great sex, because all great sex comes from the connection you have to sensations inside of your body, to the sensation of pleasure in particular. So that's why I wanted to bring this topic up to you today, because after recording 19 speakers on the Sexy Feminine Leadership Summit that's going live June 12th, 13th, and 14th. If you haven't signed up already, I want you to go sign up at the link in the show notes because it's going to be freaking amazing. I realized that there was this big gap in people's thinking of, well, when we're feminine leaders, then how do we bring our sexuality forward into all aspects of our lives? How can we bring more pleasure and sensuality into our work and to what we're serving the world with and to how we do business? And this is what the summit is all about. And one thing that, after looking at everyone's talk titles and having interviewed 19 experts in the field of feminine leadership, wealth creation, embodiment, femininity, and sacred sexuality, all of these different fields, no one talked about the body. And I recognized, well, that's my thing. That's my unique thing. I don't know how in the world I made it through growing up Southern Baptist in the home that I did, still having a deep, deep, deep connection to my body and my intuition and my inner wisdom. But there's a lot of new people coming to the podcast right now. So if you're new here, thank you for tuning in. And I'm going to share a little bit of a background that those of you who have been listening for a while have probably heard me speak of before. But I grew up Southern Baptist in a tiny town just north of New Orleans, Louisiana. And one of the first, well, maybe not first memories, but definitely one of the top 10 first memories that I had was of walking out of my bathroom naked when I was 6 years old, and my parents fussing at me. Actually, I had a towel around me. I didn't have my clothes on. I had a towel around me, and I remember my parents fussing. And I had recognized after doing sexuality work and starting to learn Tantra and to do the Taoist jade egg practice that when I was 27 years old, I began to link that part of why I felt shy and not confident in my body and really just uncomfortable and awkward in any sexual experiences. The reason that I felt that was because of how I grew up. And somehow at the same time, I did not lose a connection with my truth. I never lost connection with intuition within the body, because I didn't start sexuality work until I was 27. And I had my babies my firstborn when I was 23. And having my firstborn was definitely a completely life transformative experience for me. I had been to school to become an OBGYN. I thought that was what I wanted to do. I never actually wanted to go to college, but my kid's dad, I met him when I was 18, and he had encouraged me to go to college because I had a scholarship, because I had really good grades, I made a good ACT score, all that sort of stuff. And if I had just gone back to Louisiana, because I had moved away as soon as I graduated college, and I went to Denver, Colorado, and that's where I met their dad. And then he encouraged me to take them up on the scholarship because I had a year to accept it. So I took it, and I was like, well, if I'm going to go do college, which I don't really want to do, but, that's what my parents say I got to do to be successful, and blah, 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 blah. So I did the whole college track, trying to prove my worth through my academic studies and also try and get a good job at the end of it. And I started college in 2003, which meant that I was finishing college right around 2007, 8. I actually went on and got a master's degree, so it took me a little longer. I finished college in the 4 years, but I was doing a master's degree right around 2007 and 8 when I became pregnant. So during the time before I got pregnant, I was doing rotations in a hospital with an anesthesiologist in Tucson, Arizona. And I noticed and had attended to a lot of C-section births. And having gone to those birth experiences, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really effed up how these women are giving birth. Like, they're so out of it. Whatever picture I had in my head of what birth should be like was not what I was seeing. And I grew up with a very anti-pharma, anti-government dad who kind of drilled that in me very early on, and I'm very grateful for that because it taught me to think for myself. That's one quality you could not say I didn't possess, because it definitely have the I think for myself quality. And I question everything. So when I was in training, this was my senior year, or junior or senior year of undergrad, I was doing all these rotations with this anesthesiologist, and I'm like, oh my God, this birth stuff is insane. Like, if I ever become pregnant, I just don't want it to be like that. Like, I don't know what the alternative is, but it's definitely not going to be that for me. And like a year or two later, I got pregnant. So from there, it was studying, okay, well, what are the other options? What are the alternatives? And at the time, the Bradley method was a method of childbirth education that was very popular at the time. So I found our local Bradley method instructor, and I went to the classes with them. My kid's dad at the time went with me as well. And by the time we went to our second class, I was like, okay, not only do I just want a natural birth, but I also am not having a baby in the hospital. I've seen what goes on there. I know what goes on there, and I am not doing that. So I had looked around for a midwife and interviewed a couple of midwives and met with them, and I did not like any of them. I actually didn't like them. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this unassisted. I don't want anyone there. I know that my body knows what to do, and thinking that there would be any other option of like that thought of what if never crossed my mind. I don't know if it was because I was young and dumb. Maybe it was, but I really believe that it was inner intuition and guidance and inner knowing. So somehow, even though I grew up very disconnected from my body, feeling super weird and awkward inside, I still had this connection to source energy within me that, I'm not drawing to have made this decision to have an unassisted birth. I wasn't drawing on logic or facts or peer-reviewed journal articles or anything like that. I was like, you know what? My baby is meant to be born via an unassisted birth. Like, I know exactly what to do, and I have absolutely no doubts that this is the way that it gets to happen. And I ended up having a very short labor. My water broke at midnight on his due date, and he was born at 4:06 in the morning. And the entire birth was just very, very quick. I didn't know that I was even in labor until about 2 a.m. that morning. So I was only in labor for about 2 hours, which for most women, they're like, oh my God, that's it. But it felt like a complete train wreck because everything was so sudden onset. Anyway, so glad I had him unassisted because it was so short that there's no way, based on where we lived in the middle of nowhere in Idaho at the time. There was no way that someone would have made it there on time. It was just not going to happen in that way because I didn't even realize I was in labor until 2 a.m. And then based on everything I knew, it was like, well, you probably have like 24 to 36 hours before you even birth this kid. So I wasn't even concerned about it. And then things just picked up so quickly. I would have never even thought to call someone as soon as, by the time I was having him, I was like, okay, too late. We're just doing this thing, right? So I'm so glad that I had listened and trusted my intuition and my inner instinct. So that was the beginning of me reconnecting with the body. That whole entire experience set me off on this path of Tantra, of awakening my sexuality, of diving into sexuality, of becoming conscious. And that was the catalyst, that birth experience. It was absolutely mind-blowing experience. Definitely it was like being on plant medicines. Extremely powerful experience to witness myself, be the consciousness that I am, witnessing my body going through this thing of birth, going through this birth portal. So 23 years old to about 27, I was just beginning to awaken to the consciousness that I am, to break away from the way of being that, God is outside of you. You have to listen. You have to obey what God says to you. God is something that's only found on the outside. And intrinsically from that birth experience was like, that is all bullshit. None of that is true. I did not experience that at all. Everything I thought that I knew about the body, about pleasure, about the body itself was completely obliterated in that birth experience. And I knew that everything I had been taught was wrong. So it was like 5 years of like, well, I don't know what the path is, but I know everything I was taught is definitely not. So this set me into sexuality work because I began to become curious and interested in, okay, what more is there to sex? I can't fathom living, another however many decades and this being all there is. I'm not sure what all the fuss is about. Like, I like sex. I like having orgasms, but it's not that great. Like, I don't know, why is everyone so obsessed with it? Really, was what was going through my head. And beginning to learn Tantra and to do some of the Taoist practices, sacred sexuality practices with the jade egg, and studying with a Tantra teacher, and then eventually going to sex coaching training for 2 years, I began to do lots and lots and lots and lots of tantric practices that helped me to reconnect with God and my body. How did that happen? Okay, so having grown up Southern Baptist, everything you're taught about your body is that the body is this thing that you should be ashamed of. It's this thing that, we have to have our mind over our body, and you should not listen to your body's urges because anything that the body tells you is a sin, it's wrong, it's not good. This was the programming that I got. And as I'm learning Tantra and beginning to connect with divinity inside of me, it became abundantly clear that, holy shit, they have it all wrong. They have it so wrong. The body is the way in which God speaks to you. How does that work? Oh my God, how does that even work? Here's how it works. The first way that I began to find God in my body and recognize my body as a temple for the divine was connecting with the felt sense. What is the felt sense? It's literally the sensations you feel inside. And if you are not connected to the felt sense and have sensate focus, which is the focus to connect to sensations within your body, then you have no access to your unconscious mind and divine communication. The felt sense connects you to and unlocks the unconscious mind to open yourself for connection to intuition and to source communication from inside. And until you have the sensate focus and the level of presence and awareness to connect with the felt sense, which is very easy to do, it's the first thing I teach private clients when I begin to work with them, is what do you feel in your body right now? What do you feel that's in fear resistance to your goals and desires? And that's literally the opening. That's where we start. What do you feel in your body? And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's a block. Sometimes it's tension and tightness. And sometimes it's fog in the head, right? So connecting with the felt sense is literally the first way that you can begin to experience your body as divine and a portal in which God speaks to you, because it is the path to whatever is blocking you from source connection. So when you get to the felt sense, the second way that you begin to find and discover God in your body and and begin to recognize your body as a sacred vessel in which God communicates with you is that you come up against the blocks and you begin to remove the blocks and to restore connection by uncovering your intuition and instinct inside until you have access to the unconscious brain. And you do not have connection to your intuition, because your intuition is the voice of God within, the consciousness within you that is trying to speak to you. You can't be connected to it with all of the felt sense blocks, like literally the tension from years of programming, of negative conditioning, of big T and little t traumas. It literally blocks you from connection to intuition and instinct. So the way to get yourself unblocked from the felt sense and being able to connect with the divine in your body and feel intuition in your body and feel your primal instinct inside is first, feel things. You got to learn how to meet emotions that are super uncomfortable. You got to begin to see, okay, what inside of my body is literally blocking connection to source energy, to instinct, to my body's intuition, to where I can even begin to even see what is the next right step for me. And then you have the third step, which is when you're beginning to remove these blocks through all sorts of things that we're going to go in just a minute. But when you're beginning to remove these blocks, what begins to happen is that your sexual energy, divine energy, begins to wake up inside. In the Taoist tradition, sexual energy is your Jing Qi. It is the energy by which you are created and by which you are doing life at all. We are all here because of sex. So of course sex has something to do with God. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. So when you begin to remove these blocks to your intuition and your instinct, you begin to awaken sexual energy, divine energy, really, because it is divine. And it begins to unblock everything, like through the chakra system. So if you can connect with felt sense in your pelvis, you begin to notice the blocks where your connection from your spiritual center and your third eye and your crown is literally blocked, usually somewhere between your throat and your solar plexus. And then you have like your pelvic energy, so your root and your sacral. Almost everyone is blocked at their sacral. They're not connected to it. There's no free flow of energy to connect the sacral energy to the crown energy. So how do we work through these blocks from solar plexus, heart, and throat? Well, you got to reconnect them all. It's like you got to open the channels. And this is where the tantric practices and opening the kundalini and the nadis and all of this stuff come into play. Because once your sexual energy begins to become activated and alive, you begin to, through the felt sense and your connection with the felt sense, notice how blocked you are from moving that sexual energy and letting that pleasure move up the rest of your body. It's almost like, well, I can't even allow myself to feel pleasure beyond my pelvis, because I think if I were to feel that, I would be completely terrified of how powerful I really am. And that's why with so many clients, almost everyone I've worked with, and myself included, we tend to be blocked from our source connection in the solar plexus, because the solar plexus is where our power center is, like our power and our willpower to do things, to go out and, put our stake in the ground and, do what we're here to do in life. And a lot of times we block ourselves at this point, because if we really knew how powerful our sexuality was and how it was the direct connection that we need to be in tune with God and intuition and instinct, then it would be obliterating to the programming that's going on in the world. It would obliterate our conditioning and everything that we were taught, which for some people is too destabilizing, and it shuts them down and they can't deal with it. So what I'm trying to say is that when we begin to dive into recognize the body as a sacred portal through which God communicates to you, you get to go in and awaken that sexual energy so that you can see that your sexual energy and your spiritual energy, they are no different. They are no different, and they are connected. And when your sexual energy, when you allow it to move through the body, through the chakra system, it begins, you learn different tantric practices and Taoist practices to move this energy through the body. And you begin to witness and see how your sexual energy actually is sacred, how it's not what you were taught growing up, how it's not this thing that you shouldn't trust. You begin to recognize it as like, oh my God, this is life inside of me. This is what it feels like to be alive. And you begin to witness the body as an entity of its own. That it's something, it's your home, it's your temple, it's something you're living in, but it's not you. And God is using this thing He gave you to be a way to show you where you're blocked so that you can connect with Him more deeply. Okay? This is the fascinating part of all this, because the thing that most religions are telling you is to disconnect from the body, trust us, we'll show you the way, and thereby disconnecting you from your own intuition and your own instinct. Why they want you to do that? Because then you have no power. You're not connected to your power. It makes you easy to control. And considering all that's going on in the world, that's what they want. They don't want you to feel that you're powerful, because then they can't be in control. So connecting with your own power inside and your sexual power and the divinity of your sexuality. Holy shit, how do you do that? Well, this is the fourth way that you begin to find God through your body. You engage in sacred practices for clearing and reconnecting, like breath work, nervous system rewiring, hypnosis. There's all sorts of ways to begin to clear and reconnect with Source, with your sexual energy being a part of it, something that's included in this experience, not excluded. All major religions and most spiritual traditions exclude sexuality from being something that's sacred, that you can't, that's not sacred, but this is. And Tantra and Taoism, the reason it's so amazing is because they're some of the only spiritual traditions that are like, no. If you really want to be connected with God, how could you say that that's anything separate? Because we all got here from that. So how could your body be anything but a temple? How could it be anything but divine? So if we include sexuality as part of a spiritual practice, and we begin to connect with the felt sense, and we begin to increase our level of sensate focus to connect with our intuition and instinct, and we can actually freaking listen to what the body is trying to say, then we have an opportunity to clear the blocks and the resistances that disconnect us from Source. It's like we're taking our power back from all of that negative programming and conditioning, and we're saying, oh no, I do have the power, ha 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 ha. Remember when I used to believe I didn't have the power to change this story? I actually do. And then claiming your power back through breath work, nervous system rewiring, hypnosis, all these sorts of amazing tools that we can use. EFT tapping, I've been doing that and playing with that a little bit. I've known about it for years, but have never done it consistently. And I'm definitely seeing a difference and, connecting with my nervous system at that deep somatic level to clear blocks, to more divinity, to recognizing the divinity already inside of me and the divinity that I am. And the fifth way that you begin to find God in your body is by actually transforming old patterns and behaviors and beginning to empower new ways of being that are more in alignment with Source, with God, with love itself. You begin to recognize yourself as love and as God or Goddess. You begin to get an alignment with your purpose. You begin to see, oh, this is what I'm here to do. This is my body isn't separate from God. I use my body to connect deeper to my intuition and instinct. And when I'm in tune and when I'm tapped in and when I'm turned on is when I can see with clarity the way that I am to go. When I can see the way, I know the way, and I can follow the way. And that is the only way. That is an empowering way. Any other way is spiritual bypassing. Any other way is bypassing the body to try and get to God. But what I say and completely believe, and I could say that I have always believed since the moment I was conceived, was that the body is the way to God. It's not forsaking it. It's actually the way to experience yourself as divinity, to experience yourself as love, to find your purpose, to align to your purpose, to take action to living your purpose. Which is whatever you want it to be. You are the purpose. That's all there is. There's so many coaches out there who teach around purpose. Well, what is my life's purpose? I can't imagine living life without a purpose. I really can't. I believe this is one of the reasons why all of my best and closest friends are way, way older than me. They're all about 15 years older than me at least. And this has been since I was like an adult, since I was about 20. I've always had older friends because I think that it takes people a lot longer time before they begin to wake up to their life purpose and to recognize, oh, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to just be more of me. That's it. There's nothing else to be except just more of you. And whatever you are is your purpose. You are the purpose. There is no thing. There is no thing you have to do, be, or have to have purpose. Just be you. Nothing else, just you. So to recap on what I've just shared today, how do you experience God through your body? Well, you recognize, number one, that you've got a lot of stories and conditioning that are keeping you from connecting with what you feel inside. If you're not connected to what you're feeling inside, it's going to be really hard to experience your body as divinity. So you got to connect with the felt sense. By accessing your unconscious mind, you access divine communication, a portal to divine communication. Number two, you remove blocks and restore connection to intuition and instinct through the felt sense. Number three, when you're connected to the felt sense and you understand where the blocks are, you can begin to awaken your sexual energy to reconnect it to spiritual energy. Number four, you can use breath work, nervous system rewiring, hypnosis, intentional self-pleasure, learn Tantra and Taoist practices to release those blocks and reconnect. And then number five, you begin to transform the patterns and behaviors now that the blocks are no longer in the way, because you get to empower a new identity that is in alignment with the truth of who you are, which is love. So that is how I have experienced it. I know this is like not so sexy, not so sexual. If you came here for sex advice, this probably isn't like maybe what you were looking for, but I wanted to share it because it does mean so much to me, and I think sharing more of my own journey about how I have experienced divinity through my body and how I continue to on a daily basis, that it is how I know what next step to take. It is how I live more of me every single day, is by feeling inside what is going on in my body. So if you don't have a connection with your body, if accessing sensations in your body, if you feel numb, if you feel disconnected from your body, if you judge your body, if you consider your body to be a source of shame, guilt, fear, or disgust, these are really big red flags that you are not connected with your intuition and instinct. You can't be. You can't be. All you have a connection to is your mind, and your logical mind does not always have your best interest at heart. Your logical mind tries to think your way through things based on logic. I'm not here to be logical. I'm here to live truth, and sometimes truth isn't logical. My loves, if this is something that you are really wanting to dive deeper into, I'm going to be hosting a masterclass, a workshop, I guess you could say. I don't even have a date for it yet. But I'm going to be doing this after the Sexy Feminine Leadership Summit at the end of June. If you want to know when that's going to happen exactly and what time that's going to happen, you need to be on my email list. So you can go download any of my free resources to get on my email list. The 5 Days to Epic Sex and Pleasure Training for High Achieving Women is my most recommended free resource. You can go download that at the link in the show notes. And when I have the date and the time for the workshop on God in the Body, then I will let you know via email. If you sign up for my emails, but you aren't seeing my emails in your email inbox, that's because they have gone to your spam or promotions folder. So go check your spam or promotions folder. You will find them in there. You can mark my emails as safe or drag and drop them into your inbox, and you will begin to get my emails in your inbox, and they will not end up in your spam or promo folder anymore. My loves, thank you for joining me today and for allowing me this time and space to share with you my own experience of how I have found God in my body. So go sign up for the Sexy Feminine Leadership Summit. Get on my email list, and we'll be in touch about the workshop coming up soon. All right, have a good week. Hey there, conscious leader. Are you serious about up-leveling your sex life and relationship right now? Then you are in luck, because if you have been on the personal growth and development path for some time now, maybe you've been to therapy, or maybe you're even a coach, a healer, an entrepreneur, or a therapist yourself, and you're wanting to embody your pleasure more deeply and become a multi-orgasmic millionaire yourself, then I'm going to invite you to a 1-hour complimentary pleasure assessment call with me that you can book at the link in the show notes or at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/pleasure assessment. In the pleasure assessment call, I'm going to take a full diagnosis of your present moment and past experiences with sexuality and relationships. And then we'll dive into your top goals and desires for these areas of your life. From there, I'll be able to give you your top 2 to 5 blocks and obstacles in the way of you creating these goals and desires, and give you the exact next steps that you get to take to overcome them and that you must take to overcome them. I have done over 700 of these calls, so there is literally nothing I have not heard. I know it can be hard to talk about these things and to crack the door open on your sexuality and talk about it, so that's why I want you to feel as comfortable as possible to open up and share with me. This is a private call, it's just you and I. So if you're someone who wants to feel more confident and sexy in your body, to tap into your feminine energy and bring that into your business, to increase your sexual desire and drive, to get out of your head into your body, to learn how to manifest with your sexual energy, to have mind-blowing orgasms in different ways, or maybe just to reignite the spark with your long-term partner, then book your complimentary pleasure assessment call with me today at the link in the show notes or at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/pleasure assessment. I'll see you there.